Every solo leveling fan thinks Jin-Woo's biggest strength is his power growth, but they're completely missing his most dangerous psychological flaw that's actually destroying his humanity. Jin-Woo's isolation isn't heroic. It's a trauma response that makes him weaker, not stronger. I'll show you the hidden psychology behind why Jin-Woo's lone wolf mentality is actually holding him back, and how you can avoid this same trap in your own life. I've analyzed over 200 anime characters through psychological frameworks, and Jin-Woo represents one of the most misunderstood character archetypes in modern anime. Season 2 just ended, and while everyone's debating power scaling and animation quality, nobody's talking about the psychological masterpiece happening beneath the surface. Here's what we're going to uncover today. First, why Jin-Woo's isolation is actually trauma disguised as strength. Second, the dangerous psychology of emotional numbing and how it's literally rewiring his brain. Third, how his entire power fantasy mirrors real-world toxic masculinity that fans are celebrating without realizing it. And finally, the self-improvement lessons hiding in his biggest psychological failures. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Jin-Woo's journey isn't about becoming stronger. It's about learning to connect with others without losing yourself. And if you've ever caught yourself saying, "I work better alone," or "I don't need anyone," this analysis might hit closer to home than you expect. Now let's dive into the first major psychological flaw that fans completely misunderstand. Jin-Woo's preference for working alone isn't confidence. It's avoidance of vulnerability, stemming from childhood trauma. Think about this through the lens of attachment theory. When children experience repeated powerlessness and abandonment, their developing brains learn a dangerous lesson: human connection equals pain. Jin-Woo's bullying trauma didn't just hurt him physically, it conditioned him to associate reaching out for help with humiliation and betrayal. Let's look at the evidence. Pre-awakening, we see Jin-Woo get abandoned by his raid team and nearly die alone in that double dungeon. His teammates literally left him to die because he was considered dead weight. That's not just rejection. That's the ultimate confirmation that depending on others leads to life-threatening vulnerability. But here's what's really telling. Even after awakening, when Jin-Woo has the power to protect himself, he still refuses backup. When the association offers him support teams, he declines. When his friends show genuine concern for his safety, he deflects or disappears entirely. Every single time someone tries to help him, his automatic response is to push them away. This isn't strategic thinking. This is a trauma response. His brain is still operating from that foundational belief that other people will ultimately let you down when it matters most. So instead of risking that pain again, he chooses isolation. But here's the psychological trap. The more he isolates, the more his brain reinforces this belief. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, before you think, but Jin-Woo is just being practical, ask yourself this. Do you recognize this pattern in your own life? If you find yourself saying, "I work better alone," or "I don't need anyone," you might be protecting yourself from the vulnerability required for genuine growth. The same neural pathways that keep Jin-Woo isolated might be keeping you from the connections that could actually make you stronger. Going solo isn't strength, it's fear wearing a mask. And here's where it gets really dark. This isolation isn't just hurting his relationships, it's literally rewiring his brain in dangerous ways. Here's where Jin-Woo's psychology gets really disturbing. His emotional numbness isn't cool protagonist syndrome. It's dissociation, a trauma response that makes him less human with each level up. Look at the evidence. Early Jin-Woo cries when he's scared, shows genuine fear in dungeons, and connects deeply with his sister's emotions. Remember how he breaks down thinking about his mother's medical bills? That's a human being feeling real emotions. But current Jin-Woo? He barely reacts to death, treats relationships transactionally, and his expressions have become increasingly blank. Watch his eyes throughout the series. They become more distant, more empty with each power increase. Here's the psychological breakdown that fans are missing. The system is literally rewarding him for emotional detachment. Every time he suppresses empathy, every time he becomes more cold and calculating, he gains power. It's gamifying psychopathy. The system isn't just making him stronger, it's conditioning him to be less human. And here's what's really scary about emotional numbing. It's the brain's protection mechanism, but it comes with a devastating cost. When you shut down access to negative emotions like fear and sadness, you also lose access to positive emotions. Joy, love, genuine connection, they all become muted. Jin-Woo isn't just becoming fearless, he's becoming joyless. This is why his victories feel empty. This is why he can't truly celebrate his achievements. The system has taught him that feelings are weaknesses to overcome, not experiences to embrace. Check yourself. Are you using logic over emotions as an excuse to avoid feeling? Are you proud of being unbothered by things that should actually matter? Because if you are, you might be walking down the same path as Jin-Woo, gaining power but losing your humanity in the process. Jin-Woo is becoming a sociopath, and fans think it's character development, and this emotional numbing feeds into the most toxic part of Jin-Woo's psychology that fans actually celebrate. Now here's the most controversial point that's going to make some of you angry. Jin-Woo's character arc perfectly reflects toxic masculinity ideals: emotional suppression, dominance through violence, and viewing relationships as weaknesses. Fans celebrate Jin-Woo because he embodies everything toxic masculinity tells men they should be: emotionally unavailable, physically dominant, and completely self-reliant. Think I'm exaggerating? Let's look at the evidence. Jin-Woo never asks for help, even when lives are literally at stake. He'd rather risk innocent people dying than admit he might need backup. He uses intimidation and violence as his primary problem-solving tools. Remember how he handles that C-rank hunter who disrespected him? Pure dominance display. He treats people as either threats to eliminate or resources to protect, never as equals to collaborate with. And he measures his entire worth through power and achievement. His identity is completely tied to his rank and strength. Here's the psychological breakdown. This appeals to viewers because it validates the harmful message that vulnerability equals weakness. It's a power fantasy that reinforces isolation. Jin-Woo represents what society tells men they should aspire to be: the lone wolf who needs no one, who solves problems with force, who never shows emotion or asks for help. But here's what fans miss. This isn't aspirational. It's tragic. Watch Jin-Woo's face throughout Season 2. He's becoming more powerful, but also more hollow. He can't enjoy his victories because he has no one genuine to share them with. He can't process his fears because he's conditioned himself to suppress all emotion. He's becoming exactly what toxic masculinity promises: untouchable and completely alone. Real strength isn't about being untouchable. It's about being vulnerable enough to grow, secure enough to ask for help, and confident enough to show weakness. The strongest people in your life aren't the ones who never need anything. They're the ones who can be honest about their struggles and still choose to keep going. The tragedy isn't that Jin-Woo is becoming more powerful, it's that he's becoming less human, and we're cheering him on. But there's hope, and it comes from understanding what the story is actually trying to tell us. Here's the hidden lesson that changes everything. Jin-Woo's story is actually a cautionary tale about the cost of power without connection. His greatest victories feel empty because he's lost the ability to share them. Think about it. When Jin-Woo defeats major threats, there's no celebration, no genuine joy, no one to truly understand what he's accomplished. He's achieved everything he thought he wanted, but it feels hollow because he's severed the human connections that give achievements meaning. Compare this to other anime protagonists who grow stronger while maintaining connections. Tanjiro from Demon Slayer becomes incredibly powerful, but never loses his empathy or his bonds with others. Deku from My Hero Academia grows stronger specifically because of his relationships, not despite them. Even Gon from Hunter x Hunter before his dark arc shows us that strength and connection can coexist. Now I know some of you are thinking, but Jin-Woo protects people. He's a hero. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Protection without connection is just control. He's becoming what he once feared, someone who decides others' fates without their input. He doesn't save people with them. He saves people from problems they never knew existed, then disappears before they can even thank him. This is the ultimate self-improvement lesson hiding in Jin-Woo's journey. The real power fantasy isn't becoming invincible. It's becoming someone who can be vulnerable and still choose to be strong. It's having the courage to let people see your struggles and still choosing to fight for them. It's building connections that make you stronger, not walls that keep you isolated. Jin-Woo's failure isn't that he's weak. It's that he's forgotten what he's fighting for beyond just power itself. So what have we learned from diving deep into Jin-Woo's psychology? 3 key takeaways that could change how you approach your own life. First, isolation that feels like strength is often trauma in disguise. If you find yourself constantly choosing to go it alone, ask yourself, am I being strategic, or am I protecting myself from the possibility of being hurt again? Second, emotional numbness isn't character development, it's character deterioration. When you stop feeling the lows, you also lose access to the highs. Jin-Woo's journey shows us that suppressing emotions doesn't make you stronger, it makes you less human. And third, true strength includes vulnerability, connection, and the courage to need others. The most powerful people aren't those who never fall down, they're the ones who can ask for help getting back up. Jin-Woo's journey shows us what happens when we prioritize power over connection. Don't make his mistake. Your relationships aren't weaknesses to overcome, they're strengths to cultivate. The people who care about you aren't holding you back from greatness. They're the ones who make greatness meaningful. If this analysis changed how you see Jin-Woo, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, what character do you think is actually weaker than they appear? I'll analyze your suggestions in future videos, and if you want more deep dives into the psychology behind your favorite anime characters, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Remember, the goal isn't to become untouchable, it's to become someone worth touching base with.